The first thing I want to talk about is if you're going to plan on resetting yourself, you have to make sure that you're putting yourself in position to be blessed. Bartimaeus understood something. He understood that if I'm going to be blessed, I have to be in the right position to do so. I can't wait on everybody. I'm going to have to put myself in the position to be blessed. Stop looking for people to put you in the position. You're going to have to get there yourself. You're going to have to get there yourself if you want to be blessed. We have triculated through life because we think that if they don't help me, I can't do it. What happens when you have to, tie your own bootstraps and walk through the mud by yourself? When you have to start the business by yourself in your garage? When you have to sit there and study because you want to become a doctor so can't nobody study but you. So now you're up in the middle of the night when everybody in your house is sound asleep and you try your best not to fall asleep yourself and you sitting there reading and you're testing yourself. Sometimes for you to be blessed, you're going to have to push yourself. Stop waiting for everybody to push you. You're not going to always get the encouragement from everybody. Oh my God, that's good. That's why there's a song that you have to encourage yourself. And keep it moving. Is that good? When people ask why you don't come around anymore, tell them that you're positioning yourself. Girl, you don't call no more. You're right. You're absolutely right, because I'm trying to get myself in position. Because you ain't talking about nothing anyway. You be like, say, bro, why you don't hang out with us no more? Because I'm trying to position myself. I got to get myself in the right position, and you right now are going to always put me out of position. That good? So I have to understand the position. But the position always puts me in the right place. So I have to understand the principle of the place. This is good. I wanted to get to this one. The principle of the place. What do you mean? My well-being and welfare is not just determined by who I am, but equally impacted by where I am. Yes, sir. Me becoming what I need to become is not about just who I am, but where I am. I began to talk about it earlier. There are a lot of times where you have put focus and strength, blood, sweat, and tears in the wrong place. You've done everything you can, but it's been put in the wrong place. So you don't become who you're supposed to become simply because you're at the wrong place. How many times have us in life, because I always want to teach and preach from a posture of we, because as much as I am pastor, I deal with some of the same stuff. All right? And so there have been so many times where we begin to damage ourselves because we're in the wrong place. You could be doing the right thing at the right time in the wrong place. Oh my goodness. You are either enhanced or damaged by the place. Okay, let's prove it. Let's prove it. If you are a musician, for musicians alike, it depends on where you kind of go to school, depending on the job that you might get in music. Okay? So if you said that I went to school, like from where I am, you said, hey, I went to high school at a place called Henderson, Texas, at Henderson High School, where don't nobody know and don't nobody care, right? But then somebody else come around and says, I went to Juilliard. I went to Juilliard and I learned the arts from the top, the best. You can still be no good. but just the fact at the place you came from. The name of where you came from does so much more. The place that you come from holds so much weight because it's either going to enhance or damage you. So when you start talking about where you come from, oh my goodness, I'm going to get into it now. When you start talking about where you come from in life, people are starting to look at you in a certain way if you start telling you, I'm from the slums, I'm from the ghettos, I'm from the... And you could be better than the person that you are going against the job for, or you going against the position for, but all because they ask you where you come from. There has been so much in life that we allowed the place that we come from damage us. The place is just as important. Let me flip that on its head. Sometimes you try your best to get into the wrong place. Let's talk about it. You have tried your best to get into a business that sounds good, but just because you're successful at it don't mean you're called to it. And you can spend a lot of your life being good at something and still not feeling fulfilled because you are after, again, your own will instead of God's will. And so now you are out of place. So you are out of place simply because you are trying to fulfill your will instead of God's will. There was a question that was asked to me one time. It was like, why do I, always do the difference between God's will and my will, right? And I said, because generally God's will don't always feel good. Your will does. Your will's gonna always feel good. At the end of the day, your will gonna feel good. It's going to feel holy, even when it ain't, right? But God's will is going to always put you in a place where you have to totally lean on him, where you're going to have to totally depend on him, where even in your prayers, you don't know what's going on. See, that's what we don't want to give up the freedom of knowing what's going on. Because when you really start dealing with God, you ain't going to know every T that's going to be crossed, every I that's going to be dotted. Sometimes you're going to walk through life and say, okay, God, we on day 17. Well, what's going on? I ain't heard nothing. I'm 2 years in this thing and I'm still dealing with this issue. Or I'm 2 years in this thing and you said you was going to bring me out of this, or you was going to deliver this to me, and I ain't heard nothing from you or anybody. But you say, you in God's will. It was really said at one point, sometimes it's not in the man, it's in the land. What do you mean? Sometimes your gift can be elevated because of where you are. You might not be as good as you think until you get into the right place. Have you ever seen that where, for me, let me talk about me. I was a drummer. Okay, I talk about that all the time. I was a drummer growing up, and I was good, right? I was good. Wasn't as good as Cece, but I was good. And so as I was growing up, I was good until I got to a place where there was a group called Righteousness, right? In the 90s, right? And so it was a big group, and we traveled all over the United States. And it's not until I got there where that place pushed me to get better. Right? I didn't like it all the time because the director was very to the point. Like, very to the point. Would hurt your feelings and not care about your feelings, right? Have you ever been there? Have you ever been to a job where you think they picking on you, but what they try to do is make you better? Right? Because sometimes we just don't like criticism at all. But there is a such thing called constructive criticism. Just because somebody has a different viewpoint or somebody says that you can change something don't mean they're against you. They see something in you that you don't see in yourself. And so to push it out of you, they're going to have to stretch you. And the way to stretch you is to make you do something that you don't want to do. oh, I'm sorry, that sounds like God. Because when God is trying to get something out of you, he puts you in a place where you're going to have to lean on him, and he's going to make you do stuff that you don't want to do. But as you're not wanting to do it, but you still do it, you start finding out that you're better at it than you thought you were. And so it's about the place. Sometimes, oh my goodness, sometimes you can be at the wrong church because you are at the church, the pastor's preaching, and it seems like that pastor don't ever stretch you. Okay, let's talk about it. You could be at the right, or you could be at the wrong place doing the right thing, and you don't ever feel like you are being downloaded or nothing's being downloaded in your spirit because you are doing the right thing just at the wrong place. And then you get mad at your pastor because you don't know why your pastor can't see in you what you think that's in you, because your pastor can't see it because you in the wrong place. Okay. I'm gonna stay there for a second. Let me dig deeper into that, and then we can go home. Because the right church, the right ministry, the right pastor is gonna always push you. Always. And what you mean by that, Pastor? Even in the mannerisms of how things are done, should push you. Okay? From the pulpit, the Bible says that the Bible is like a two-edged sword, right? If I cut you, eventually it's going to cut me, right? And so I preach from that type of same authority, right? Because a lot of stuff that I preach about, you don't even know that's going on in my life. I preach from the prosperity of what I go through on a daily basis. So when I say, you know what, God is good, it's because he was good to me this week. Are you with me? Right? And so at times, you could be doing the right thing at the wrong place. I tell people all the time, you don't ever want to mistake the right place with how you feel. Are you with me? Feelings are fickle. They'll feel good right now. They'll change tomorrow. I promise you. They'll change with the weather. You know how it can be sunshiny 1 minute and you feel great. And next you know it started raining, now you feel down on yourself. Are you with me? And so this is what's happening in the ministry. This is what happened in churches. People get into a church, people go to a ministry because it felt good. And it felt good and, you know, it looks good, but if you're not called to it, at some point you're going to feel drained and not energized. Oh, that's good. That's good. Because at some point, the ministry should begin to push you and pull something out of you. Oh, that's good. Who you are either is going to be enhanced or damaged by the place. We have to begin to reset believing that dead places bring life. I'm going to end with this. We have made ourselves believe that life has to always come from a dead place. What do you mean? We always try to resurrect the dead when the Bible says, let the dead bury the dead. We always trying to resurrect a relationship when just leave it dead. If they did leave, mean they could leave, mean they should leave. If anything is part of your destiny, then they can't leave. I'm going to push you this morning. If they can leave, let them leave. Because, let me talk about me, and I'm going to talk about me and my wife, as I do every Sunday. In marriage, if they can leave, let them leave. Let me tell you why. Because if they're not willing to fight for the marriage, all right. Because here's my problem, is if you're not willing to fight for the friendship, then we don't need to be friends. Because if you're not willing to fight for the friendship means that you can easily turn into my enemy. Oh, all right. Okay, same thing for the job. If the job don't want you there and if it ain't going to fight for you, then leave. I'm telling you right now. At the end of the day, if the job don't want you, and if you can't leave, then leave. Because you've been to those jobs that when they don't want you to leave, they'll throw everything at you. They'll be like, hey, we'll increase your pay. We'll give you more days off. What do we need to do to keep you here? Then vice versa, you have the companies that be like, if you want to leave, then bye. We're not going to pay you what you're worth. If they can leave, let them leave. Because we always think that life has to come from a dead place. If it can die, then let it die. And if it's going to be resurrected, let God resurrect it, not you. You sitting here with a defibrillator trying to give life to something, doing CPR to something that's dead. Then you get frustrated. If they go, you trying to resurrect the marriage, and if it ain't going to happen, it ain't going to happen. Oh, God. And see, we talk about that. But then when the rubber meets the road, we the same people that's trying to resurrect something that's dead. Let the dead bury the dead. And we only think about that when we talk about death in people's lives. But I'm talking about in situations. If a situation is dead, let it die. Because we waste more time trying to resurrect situations and circumstances. My old pastor used to say something, Dr. Gregory O. Littlefield at Family of Faith Christian Church there in Tyler, Texas, right? He had a saying that he would say, if it ain't working, then let's shelve it. Let's put it on the shelf. And we'll come back to it and see what God says. And if God don't ever say go back to it, then don't. That's how me and my wife, that's how we conversate with each other. Sometimes we get in heated fellowship, right? We no longer argue. We have heated fellowship. And so, we'll get to the point where it done got so heated, either me or her says, she's like, well, let's put it on the shelf. We'll stop having the conversation. We'll talk about something else. And I know how my wife is, so my breakout is always, what you want to eat? I say it mad, like, what you want to eat? And her response is always, whatever you want to feed me. Right? But what ends up happening is we have mastered our form of communication between one another. I'm not going to say we mastered it, but we're good at it. And we're getting better every day, right? Because, again, I'm not going to try to beat a dead horse. And I'm not going to try to resurrect something that should be dead. Sometimes we argue about a bunch of dead stuff. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Sometimes we argue about stuff, and I'm talking about just in general, people, we argue about stuff that don't mean nothing anyway. We argue about the small stuff. Let that die. Let that go. It's okay. You're talking something that happened 15 years ago. Let it go. Let it go. I don't care if they don't apologize. Let it go. Stop needing an apology from everybody. That's when you start knowing that when you become an adult and you become grown, everybody ain't got to apologize to you. You know what? You know who I learned that from Cherie. Me and Miss Cherie were having that conversation. She's like, everybody ain't got to apologize to me. I'm not looking for no apology. I'm grown enough to forgive you without you ever saying, I'm sorry. That's real maturity. I'll forgive you, and first of all, you don't even know that you hurt me. And I forgive you and move on. But you waiting on people to apologize to you, and you are all bent out of shape, and you waiting on people to apologize who dead and gone. And you'll never get that apology. And now you're looking at your family and friends because you're waiting on an apology, and you're looking crazy to them because you're holding on to dead stuff. Jesus. Somebody say, let that go. Your position can be the one thing that stops your next level. Blind Bartimaeus understood that I may be blind, but if I get in the right place, this can change. And when he heard that Jesus was near, I'm going to end with this. We need to reset our hearing. We need to reset our hearing. Reset your hearing is the ability to catch what others missed. Is the ability to catch what others missed. When you are truly in tune with God and in tune with yourself, you'll hear stuff that people don't hear. You'll hear it. And what do you say? When you hear it, Pastor, you can hear it figuratively, but also internally you'll hear it. When God speaks to you, you'll know it. You don't have to get clarification that God spoke to you. You will know it. You'll be so convinced in yourself that nobody can unconvince you. When he talks to you and you have clarity in your hearing, no prophet has to come and tell you. That's right. A prophet will come and confirm it. But ain't nobody got to tell you, thus says the Lord in your life when you got correct hearing. In this season, we're going to need to correct our hearing. We're going to need to hear from God. We're going to have to know that it's God and not ourselves. We're going to have to know that it's God and not our own doing. Because that's where the mistake comes is. The mistake comes is you're here from God, and the minute that you leave here, the enemy will make you believe that it was you and not God. And the only way the enemy can do that is because you wasn't for sure it was God in the first place. But when God speaks to you and you clearly understand how he operates and how he speaks to you, there will be nothing on planet Earth that will shake you understanding that that was him and not you. You know, when God speaks, you know, at times where he'll say something to you, right? And you just can't shake it. You try to forget it. You try to get over it. But it's like you can't leave it alone. My wife has this thing, they call it, women's intuition. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Because men don't have nothing like that. All right. So, but it's something that, when it's on her and she knows something, she know it. Regardless of what you say, regardless of how you feel, she know what she know. I will say this, 10 times out of 10, she's been absolutely correct. She'll say something to me, and she'll be like, hey, just watch this. I promise you. It can be right in there. She's like, just watch this happen. And I'll be like, girl, what's going on? That ain't going to happen. You good. And all that good stuff. And then out of nowhere, exactly what she said comes to pass. And if anybody know my wife, she won't say I told you so, but she got a I told you so look. You know what I mean? She ain't got to say it, but it's on her face when you look at her, and I can't stand it every time. But love you, baby. But anyway, like when you know something and when God speaks to you, that's how you're going to be. Like nobody can make you disbelieve what he said. I don't care how big it is. If God said it to you, then he said it to you, and there's nothing you can do to change it. And there's nothing that people can do to change it. What the enemy will try to do is make you disbelieve. That's why the Bible says, I pray for my disbelief. Because if you stop believing in it, it don't change what he said. You just stop believing in it. And if you stop believing in it, it means you stop walking in it. The blessings that you are waiting for God to deliver, you're not waiting on them. God is waiting on you to take the necessary steps to go get them. God is outside of time, and he's already set up your entire life. So the position that you are in right now is not a shock to God. God says, if you just go after what I told you to go after and leave what needs to be left and grab onto the things that need to be grabbed onto, you'll make it to the next level that I'm trying to get you to. But the only reason you won't make it will be on to your own accord, because you will either quit yourself or you will get unconvinced that it's real. Are you with me? That's the trick of the enemy. The trick of the enemy is to make you believe that he don't exist, and nor does the blessings of God exist. Are you with me? At some point, you're going to have to make up in your mind, when God speaks to you, you're going to have to, you got to become insane. You got to become almost crazy, because you're going to have to believe it to the ends of the earth. Even if you don't see the results at the magnitude that God showed you. Don't believe me? Not a problem. He says, come here, Abram. I'll change your name from Abram to Abraham, and I'll make you the ruler and the leader of many nations. He says, it will come out of your lineage. Do you think Abraham seen us? Are you with me? But that's what God promised him. So it had to come to pass, regardless if he's seen it or not. Okay, don't believe that? Not a problem. Okay, Moses, I want you to lead my people to the promised land. Right? Moses gets them out of bondage, but never makes it to the promised land. But did they make it to the promised land? You see what I'm saying? When God speaks, he's not speaking just to you. He's speaking to your lineage. He's speaking to your destiny. So when he says something to you, he's talking to you, your kids' kids. So at some point, you're either going to trust him or you're not. But the first thing you have to do is reset your hearing. Jordan, you can come on up. Is reset your hearing. Because you're going to have to empty out everything that you're listening to at some point. I get it. Yes, we need to know what's going on in the news. Absolutely. Okay? I believe in being informed. But be very careful where you don't get tricked. Are you with me? Because if you're going to reset your hearing, you're going to have to match up everything God says to what you hear on the outside. Because the enemy is operating at an extraordinary level. The enemy ain't playing any games with us. But we keep tiptoeing around today's issues of life. We keep tiptoeing as Christians and believers when the enemy is out here full-fledged warfare. He is fighting us on all instances. He's fighting us on all horizons. And we are still tiptoeing around the small stuff. We still patty caking and trying to get the small stuff together, when the enemy is at 100% total warfare against you, your destiny, your family, your income, your education. He's against all of it. And at the end of the day, we still trying to figure out if God is really real and will he bless me with a car. It's deeper. It's deeper. It's heavier than that. And that's what I came to say this morning. If we're going to reset, the first thing we're going to reset is our hearing. We need to hear from God. The way we do that this week, is, I said it last week, I need you at some point to cut off your TV, get off of YouTube, get off of Facebook, TikTok, turn off MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, just ESPN. I know we're in football season, fellas. I'm sorry. Because once they done with the Super Bowl, guess what? You still got a life to live. Regardless of who wins. Right? Like, you're going to have to get, like, at some point, you got to get serious. If you really want to see the fruit thereof. We've walked through life and we don't have enough fruit. We don't have enough evidence. We don't have enough evidence where people look at our lives and truly see God. Evidence ain't perfection. Evidence ain't, even a good tree needs pruning. Oh, God. But what evidence could you show? What evidence could you show? If somebody walked into your life right now, what would they see? And what would point them to God in your life? If they seen you outside of church, if they walked into your house today, if they was able to live with you for the next year, what would they see? What would they see in your life that would point them to God? That's what it's about. Like, that's what you really have to start to think about. Again, that don't mean perfection. You're not going to have it together. Get that out your system. Get that out your head right now. Get that out. Be perfect. God ain't looking for perfection. He's looking for obedience. He's looking for obedience. So when he do talk to you, will you do what he said do? Look at everybody in the Bible. Everybody in the Bible that was a man or woman of God died with an issue. They died with a sin. They died with an issue. They died with a problem. Every last one of them. So if they did, I'm pretty sure you will. But the difference between them and us is that they were obedient. So when God said to do something at pivotal moments in their life, they went after it. Some of them till death. The reason Jesus came down was to die. See, knowing your destiny from beginning to end. I'm going to be honest with you, I couldn't have been Jesus. Ain't no way in this world. I'm like, Jesus, you want me to die for them? Really? Some of them deserve what's coming their way. You want me to die for them? In that manner? On a cross? But again, not my will, but thy will be done.